This is Standing Watch. And now, Evangelist Norbert Link.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. The war of America and its allies in the Middle East shows a picture of utmost confusion and helplessness. And it also shows that America does not have the influence anymore in that part of the world or around the world as it once had. Notice this article by The Independent, dated May 2. At least 52 civilians, including 7 children, have been killed in airstrikes by the US-led coalition in Syria. US-led strikes had reportedly killed at least 66 civilians in Syria from the start of the raids on September 23 until Friday, which brought the total to at least 118. Analysts have disagreed on the impact operations by the United States, Bahrain, Jordan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have had against ISIS and other extremists. Militant advances appear to have been slowed, but ISIS' power in its strongholds has not been substantially weakened. Now, of course, when you listen now to who is bombing who in the Middle East, you only have to shake your head in unbelief. Here's an article by The Independent dated May 3 saying this. The Saudis are bombing Yemen because they fear the Shia or Shia Houthis are working for the Iranians. The Saudis are also bombing ISIS in Iraq and ISIS in Syria. So are the United Arab Emirates. The Syrian government is bombing its enemies in Syria, and the Iraqi government is also bombing its enemies in Iraq. America, France, Britain, Denmark, Holland, Australia, and Canada are bombing ISIS in Syria and ISIS in Iraq, partly on behalf of the Iraqi government, Shia militants, but absolutely not on behalf of the Syrian government. The Jordanians and Saudis and Bahrainis are also bombing ISIS in Syria and Iraq because they don't like them. But the Jordanians are bombing ISIS even more than the Saudis after their pilot prisoner was burned to death in a cage. The Egyptians are bombing parts of Libya because a group of Christian Egyptians had their heads chopped off by ISIS. The Iranians have acknowledged bombing ISIS in Iraq, of which the Americans, but not the Iraqi government, take a rather dim view. And, of course, the Israelis have several times bombed Syrian government forces in Syria, but not ISIS. The Sunni Saudis are bombing the Shia Yemens, and the Shia Iranians are bombing the Sunni Iraqis. The Sunni Egyptians are bombing Sunni Libyans, and the Jordanian Sunnis are bombing Iraqi Sunnis. But the Shia-supported Syrian government forces are bombing their Sunni Syrian enemies, and the Lebanese Hezbollah, Shia to a man, are fighting the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's Sunni enemies, along with Iranian Revolutionary Guards and an even larger number of Afghan Shia men in Syrian uniforms. It's almost impossible to pronounce all these things correctly, but just take a look at Saudi Arabia's latest request to send more Pakistani troops to protect the kingdom and possibly help to invade Yemen, which came from the new Saudi Crown Prince and Defense Minister Mohammed bin Salman, 34 years of age. But the Saudis added an outrageous second request that the Pakistanis send only Sunni Muslim soldiers. Pakistani Shia Muslim officers and men, 30% of the Pakistani armed forces, would not be welcome. Have you ever heard of a picture more confusing, more inconsistent, more ridiculous, more stupid than this one? And this is the kind of action we are supporting. It is just crazy. This article goes on to say, and then of course there are the really big winners in all this blood, the weapons manufacturers. Raytheon and Lockheed Martin supplied 1.3 billion pounds of missiles to the Saudis only last year. But 3 years ago, Der Spiegel claims the European Union was Saudi Arabia's most important arms supplier, and last week France announced the sale of 24 Rafale fighter jets to Qatar at a cost of around 5.7 billion pounds. Egypt has just bought another 24 Rafales. If that isn't bad enough, looking at this absolutely confusing picture in the Middle East, of which America is a participant. Notice this article by israpundit.org, dated April 16, publishing a write-up by Rabbi Spiro, of course a very conservative write-up based on Israeli view towards America and towards President Obama in particular. It says just last month, Barack Obama published classified information showing the world photographs of Israel's hidden nuclear sites and its inner workings, but Obama had his people darken out all the information on that page regarding the nuclear sites of other countries. He has taken Hezbollah and Iran off our list of terror organizations. What Mr. Obama wants above all else is to strip Israel of David's city, its eternal capital, Jerusalem, and hand the ancient historic city to Islam. Obama knows that whoever controls and manages historic Jerusalem can lay claim to the land's entirety. Obama's inner identity is tied to Islam. His father and stepfather were Islamic, as is his family back in Kenya and Indonesia. His brothers are active Islamists. He was raised on the Quran and Islamic countries and attended Islamic madrasa and grew up with its attitudes, sights and sounds, aspirations and narrative, likes and dislikes. As I grew up to favor Israel, he grew up to dislike it. The Marxism Obama was fed from very early on made him dislike successful Western countries, such as America, Israel and Britain. He was taught they were colonizers and imperialists. As with America, the next 2 years will be difficult, for Obama has set his antagonistic sights on America and Israel, as well as its citizens. Now that's a conservative view, understand, but it's not a unique view when it comes to how Israel looks at America. What about the relationship between America and Great Britain and the UK? Here's an article by the Financial Times, dated May 1. Britain's nail-biting election and the fragile coalition government it seems likely to produce are confirming many of Washington's worst fears about the country's dwindling influence in the world. Once the US most reliable ally, the UK is now seen as a distant player in the crisis over the Ukraine, and the euro has introduced swinging cuts to its military and recently rebuffed Washington by joining a China-led bank. Until recently, Britain was very much our most trusted, dependable and capable ally, says Nicholas Burns, a former US ambassador to NATO and third-ranking official at the State Department, who worries that Britain might soon no longer play a central role in global affairs. It is very striking the way that Angela Merkel has become the undisputed leader of Europe, he said. Mr. Obama himself has also been accused of looking to disengage from parts of America's traditional role in the world, and one former senior US official said, Obama has at times looked lost, and it would have helped him to have a stronger British Prime Minister who could have given him some direction. But the idea was that didn't happen, and the idea is it's not going to happen in the future. And so, obviously, a vacuum is created by America's disengagement under President Obama, who is still going to rule this country for 2 years. And so the question is who is going to step up and who is going to fill the vacuum. And as you have heard us say for many years, if you have watched us for that long, it's going to be none other than Europe under German leadership. Here's an article which was published on May 3 by Sputnik News, saying this. Creating a European army remains one of the main goals for the EU, but it is important to start strengthening the Union's security system now. Germany's Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen told Bild am Sonntag newspaper on Sunday. Answering a question on the goals of strengthening the European defense community, von der Leyen said that the Ebola outbreak and Islamic State organizations' attacks demonstrated that in case of crises, Europe needs to be more flexible and quick in providing a response. And my friend, that's exactly what's going to happen. And we have prepared a free booklet, Europe in Prophecy. Europe in Prophecy, and you need to read this booklet because it's going to tell you how Europe is going to rise and why Europe is going to be the leader in world affairs, but is going to become antagonistic towards the United States of America and Great Britain and the UK. And this booklet explains these things to you from the Bible. The Bible has made these proclamations very clear thousands of years ago, and we are seeing right now how they are coming to a fulfillment which will escalate and climax in the return of Jesus Christ. So it's extremely important for you to understand where we are in biblical prophecy, what all of this, what I've read to you today, has to do with it, and what your future, your immediate future, is going to be. Thank you very much for listening. This is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.
Standing Watch is a presentation by The Church of the Eternal God, P.O. Box 270519, San Diego, California 92198. More information is also available at our website, eternalgod.org.